I, 28F, stood in the silent, carpeted hallway of the resort, the air smelling faintly of chlorine and expensive air freshener. The heavy wood of the suite door felt cold and unyielding under my palm. I had just heard the distinct, final click of the deadbolt sliding into place from the other side. It was a sound of such complete finality, a sound that shut me out. My cousin Jenna's voice was still echoing in my ears, muffled by the door but sharp with triumph. "We deserved this trip, not you." We. That meant her and her husband, Mark. The two of them were inside the sprawling, three-bedroom suite that I had paid for, and I was standing outside, holding nothing but my phone and the thin, useless plastic keycard they had just deactivated. The humiliation felt hot, like a blush crawling up my neck. This trip was supposed to be about healing. It was supposed to be for our family, a way to reconnect after my grandmother passed away. That was the story anyway. That was the lie I had helped build. Grandma had been the heart of our family. Her death left a hole that felt vast and empty. She had also left me a significant amount of money. It wasn't a fortune, but it was enough to change my life. It was also enough to curdle my cousin Jenna's heart with a jealousy so potent it was almost a physical presence in any room we shared. I could feel it radiating off her in waves. She had always seen me as lesser, the quiet one, the one who didn't sparkle. The inheritance felt, to her, like a cosmic injustice. To keep the peace, to try and bridge the growing chasm in our family, I did something I thought was generous. When Jenna proposed a luxury family vacation to a 5-star resort, I saw a chance. A chance to use Grandma's gift in a way she would have loved, by bringing her family together. I told Jenna I would fund the majority of it. I would pay for the magnificent suite, the flights, the meals. My only condition was that it remained a private matter. I didn't want thanks or praise. I just wanted peace. Jenna readily agreed. Too readily, I see now. She offered to handle all the bookings. "I'm so good at organizing," she had said, her voice bright and helpful. "Just send me the money, and I'll take care of every little detail. It will be our secret." I transferred thousands of dollars to her account, feeling a sense of relief. I was doing a good thing. I was smoothing over the cracks. I was honoring my grandmother. My parents, unfortunately, had to back out at the last minute due to a work emergency. So it was just me, Jenna, and Mark. The dynamic shifted the moment we checked in. Jenna swept up to the counter, all smiles and loud pronouncements. "Checking in for the Smith party," she announced, using her married name. She did all the talking. She took all the key cards. She signed all the papers. I stood back, quiet as always, letting her have her moment. I thought it was a small price to pay for harmony. I didn't realize I was paying to be systematically erased from my own vacation. Now, standing in the hallway, the truth of my situation was beginning to dawn on me. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a petty argument that had gotten out of hand. This was a plan. A cold, calculated maneuver to steal my money, my grandmother's legacy, and my dignity, all in one fell swoop. The laughter I heard from inside the suite confirmed it. It wasn't the sound of a heated argument. It was the sound of victory. Their victory. I took a deep breath, my hand dropping from the door. The anger hadn't hit me yet. All I felt was a profound, chilling sense of disbelief. My own cousin. My family. I turned away from the door and walked toward the elevators. The hallway seemed to stretch on for miles. Every ornate lamp and framed picture of a tropical sunset seemed to mock me. I felt small and foolish. I had paid to be here, yet I was being treated like an intruder. I had wanted to create happy memories, and instead, I was locked out while my relatives celebrated their successful deception. I pressed the down button for the lobby. As the elevator doors slid open, I made a decision. I would not let this stand. I didn't know how, but I knew this was a line that could not be uncrossed. The piece I had tried so hard to buy was a fiction, and I was done paying for it. The hotel lobby was a grand open space with a soaring ceiling and marble floors that clicked under my heels. It was designed to make you feel important, to make you feel welcomed. I had never felt less welcome in my life. I walked straight to the front desk, my mind racing. There had to be a simple solution. A mistake. A young woman with a polite, practiced smile looked up. "Good evening. How may I help you?" she asked. "Hello," I began, trying to keep my voice even. "My name is Clara Miller. I'm staying in the Ocean View Suite, room 1201. My key card seems to have stopped working." She tapped a few keys on her computer, her smile never faltering. "Room 1201. Yes, I see the reservation here." She paused, her eyes scanning the screen. Her smile tightened just a fraction of an inch. "I'm sorry, but I can't issue you a new key." I stared at her. "You can't? Why not?" "The primary guest on the reservation has left a specific note on the account," she said, her voice dropping to a more confidential tone. "No additional keys are to be issued to anyone, for security reasons." The words hit me like a physical blow. Primary guest. A note on the account. This was premeditated. "The primary guest?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Who is the primary guest?" "A Ms. Jenna Smith," the clerk replied, looking uncomfortable. "She made the reservation and checked in this afternoon." Of course, Jenna had put everything in her name. When she handled the booking, she had structured it to give herself absolute authority. The money was mine, but the power was all hers. I was just a nameless, faceless guest in a room registered to her. Legally, in the eyes of this hotel, I had no rights. "There must be some mistake," I said, my desperation growing. "I am also a guest in that room. I am her cousin." "I understand, miss," she said, her professional sympathy starting to wear thin. "But the instructions are very clear. I cannot override a security directive from the primary account holder." I felt a surge of frustration. "But I paid for the room," I said, my voice rising slightly. "I paid for the entire suite." The clerk's eyes flickered with a mixture of pity and suspicion. It was probably a story she had heard 100 times before. The jilted girlfriend, the friend who had been cut out, the family freeloader. "I'm very sorry," she said, her tone final. "But without authorization from Ms. Smith, there is nothing I can do." I knew arguing with her was pointless. She was just doing her job. The fault lay with Jenna, who had so cleverly and cruelly set this trap. I stepped back from the desk, my mind a blank. What was I supposed to do? Sleep in the lobby? I pulled out my phone, my hands shaking slightly, and found Jenna's number. I pressed call and held the phone to my ear, listening to it ring. Inside that suite, just a few floors above me, she would see my name flash on her screen. She would know exactly where I was and why I was calling. She answered on the fourth ring, her voice syrupy sweet. "Clara, is everything okay?" The fake concern was like acid. "Jenna, I'm locked out," I said, keeping my voice low. "I'm down in the lobby. My key isn't working." There was a pause, and I could hear Mark's voice faintly in the background. "Oh, is that right?" Jenna said, her voice losing some of its sweetness. "That's a shame. We were just settling in." I went to the front desk, I continued, pushing past her casual cruelty. "They said they can't give me a new key because you put a note on the account." "That's right," she said, her tone now sharp and defensive. "It's for security. We can't have keys just floating around. This is a very expensive suite. We have to be careful." "Careful of what, Jenna?" "Of me?" I asked, the absurdity of it all making my head spin. "It's my room. I'm supposed to be staying there." "It's the family suite," she corrected me, her voice cold. "And Mark and I are the primary guests. We handled the booking. We're responsible for it." The word responsible hung in the air between us. She was responsible for taking my money and using it to lock me out. The sheer audacity of it left me speechless for a moment. "Jenna, this is insane," I finally managed to say. "I paid for this. Every penny. I have the bank statements to prove it." "You contributed to the family vacation fund," she shot back, her voice like ice. It was a gift. Once you give a gift, you don't get to control it. Mark and I decided we needed some private time. We deserved a real vacation, without having to walk on eggshells around you and your holier-than-thou attitude. There it was. The truth, ugly and unvarnished. This was punishment. Punishment for having the money she thought she was owed. For making her feel small. "So you're just going to leave me down here?" I asked, my voice trembling with a mixture of anger and hurt. "Find another room," she said with a shrug in her voice. "I'm sure the hotel has something available. You've got Grandma's money after all. You can afford it." Then she hung up. I stood in the middle of the bustling lobby, the phone still pressed to my ear, listening to the dead air. The sounds of other families laughing, of suitcases rolling across the marble, of cheerful greetings from the staff all faded into a dull roar. I had never felt so alone. She had thought of everything. She had not only locked me out of the room, but had also locked me out of any recourse. She had taken my gesture of goodwill and twisted it into a weapon to humiliate me. The warmth of the lobby felt like a mockery. I was adrift, in a place I had paid a fortune to be, with nowhere to go. My own family had declared me an outcast. And as the initial shock began to wear off, something new and hard began to form in its place. A cold, quiet resolve. Jenna thought she had won. She thought she could discard me like trash. She was about to find out how wrong she was. I lowered the phone and took a steadying breath. Panicking would get me nowhere. Crying in the lobby would only give Jenna the satisfaction she craved if she happened to be peering down from the suite's balcony. I had to think. I had to be strategic. My first instinct was to fight fire with fire, to cause a scene, to demand justice. But I knew that would only make me look unstable. Jenna was counting on me to have an emotional outburst. She wanted me to look like the crazy, entitled cousin, validating her narrative that I was difficult and ungrateful. I refused to give her that satisfaction. I walked over to a plush armchair in a quiet corner of the lobby, away from the main flow of traffic. I sat down and forced myself to be calm. I needed to assess my assets. What did I have on my side? I had the truth. I had evidence. And I had a growing, righteous anger that was quickly burning away the hurt and shame. I opened my phone and went straight to my banking app. The record was right there, clear as day. A single, large transfer to Jenna's account dated 3 weeks ago. The memo line read, "Family Vacation Fund." It was a huge sum of money, enough to cover the entire week in the top-tier suite, plus a generous allowance for food and activities. It was undeniable proof. Next, I opened my email. I searched for my conversations with Jenna. I scrolled back through the chain. My messages were straightforward. "Here is the budget we discussed. I will transfer the full amount of X to cover the suite and other expenses as we planned." Her replies, I now saw, were masterfully evasive. "Perfect. Thanks so much for contributing. I'll get everything booked and handled from my end. You won't have to worry about a thing." She never once acknowledged in writing that I was paying for everything. She consistently used the word contributing, framing me as a helpful donor to her grand project, not the sole benefactor. It was subtle, but it was deliberate. She had been laying the groundwork for this betrayal for weeks. A man in a sharply tailored suit approached my chair. He had a concerned but professional look on his face. He was older, with kind eyes but a firm set to his jaw. A small gold nameplate on his lapel read, "Mr. Evans, Hotel Manager." "Excuse me, miss," he said, his voice calm and polite. "I'm David Evans, the manager on duty. My front desk staff informed me you were having some difficulty with your room. Is there anything I can do to assist?" I looked up at him, surprised that he had sought me out. For the first time all evening, I felt a tiny flicker of hope. Here was someone in a position of authority, someone who might listen. I decided to take a chance. I would not be emotional. I would be factual. "Yes, thank you," I said, my voice steady. "My name is Clara Miller. My cousin and I are booked in the Ocean View suite. She has locked me out, and the front desk is unable to issue me a new key. Mr. Evans nodded slowly. Yes, Ms. I. Smith placed a security hold on key issuance. It's an unusual step, but it is within the rights of the primary guest. The phrase, primary guest, grated on me, but I didn't let it show. I understand that, I said. However, the situation is a bit more complex. I was the one who paid for the suite, in its entirety. Mr. Evans listened patiently, his expression unreadable. I knew he must hear all sorts of stories. He was probably waiting for the dramatic, tearful plea. I gave him the opposite. I held up my phone, open to my banking app. This is the record of the wire transfer from my account to my cousin's, I explained, pointing to the line item. The amount covers the full cost of the suite for the week, plus incidentals. I sent her the money, and she made the booking in her name. Now she is refusing me access to the room I paid for. He leaned in slightly to look at the screen. He didn't rush. He read the details carefully. I saw his eyebrows raised just a fraction. This was not the typical sob story he was used to. This was a financial transaction. This was evidence. I see, he said, straightening up. His tone had shifted. It was no longer just polite. It was serious. That does complicate the matter. I also have the email correspondence where we discussed the arrangement, I added, switching to my email app and showing him the key messages. She was to book it on my behalf. Mr. Evans read the emails as well. He was quiet for a long moment, his gaze distant as he processed the information. I held my breath. His reaction was critical. If he dismissed me, I was truly stuck. Ms. I. Miller, he said finally, his voice firm. Hotel policy is very strict. The reservation is in Ms. Smith's name. I cannot legally remove her from the room or grant you access against her wishes based solely on these documents. From the hotel's perspective, your financial arrangement with your cousin is a private, civil matter. My heart sank. It was the answer I had feared. I had been legally outmaneuvered. However, he continued, and my head snapped back up. The hotel also has a code of conduct for its guests. We do not tolerate harassment, fraud, or behavior that disrupts the peace and safety of our establishment. What you're describing is deeply concerning. He looked at me, his expression now one of sympathy. I cannot give you a key to that suite tonight, but I also will not have a guest, especially one who has been so demonstrably wronged, sleeping in my lobby. He made a decision right there. I am going to provide you with a standard room for the night, at no charge to you. We will put it under a separate reservation, in your name. It will give you a safe place to sleep while we investigate the details of the main reservation more thoroughly. I was floored by his kindness. A complimentary room. It was more than I had expected. Thank you, I said, the words feeling inadequate. Thank you so much. It's the least I can do, he replied. Let me have the front desk get you checked in. Get some rest. We can speak again in the morning. I'm going to review all the notes and communications associated with your cousin's booking. Something about this doesn't sit right with me. As he walked away to speak with the clerk, I felt the first real shift in the dynamic. I was no longer just a victim. I now had a potential ally. Mr. Evans was constrained by rules, but he was also a man who recognized injustice when he saw it. Jenna thought she was safe behind the wall of hotel policy, but policies have nuances, and a good manager knows how to navigate them. I had a room for the night. I had a foothold. The game wasn't over. It was just beginning. After the front desk clerk efficiently and discreetly gave me a key card to a room on the 10th floor, I thanked her and headed back to the elevators. The room was a standard king, simple and clean. It was nothing compared to the opulent suite 2 floors above, but it felt like a sanctuary. It was a space that was mine, where no one could lock me out. I dropped my phone and the keycard on the nightstand and sank onto the edge of the bed. The adrenaline that had been coursing through me for the past hour began to fade, replaced by a deep, bone-weary exhaustion. I replayed the phone call with Jenna in my head, her dismissive tone, Her cruel words, "You can afford it." She had thrown my grandmother's gift back in my face, using it as the final twist of the knife. I knew I needed to talk to someone. I couldn't keep this all inside. I pulled out my phone and called my best friend, Sarah. She picked up on the second ring. "Clara, how's paradise?" she asked, her voice cheerful. The simple question made a lump form in my throat. "Not exactly paradise, Sarah," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "What's wrong? You sound awful," she said, her tone immediately shifting to one of concern. I took a shaky breath and told her everything. The check-in, Jenna's behavior, being locked out of the suite, the conversation with the front desk, and Jenna's final, brutal dismissal on the phone. I even told her about the hotel manager, Mr. Evans, and the complimentary room. I left nothing out. Sarah was silent for a moment after I finished, and I could practically hear her processing the sheer treachery of it all. "Wow," she finally said. "I'm speechless. No, actually, I'm not. That is the most conniving, diabolical thing I have ever heard. Your own cousin." "She said they deserved the trip, not me," I recounted, the words still stinging. "Deserved it?" Sarah scoffed. "She deserves a swift kick into the ocean. Clara, this isn't just a spur-of-the-moment fight." She planned this. The way she handled the booking, putting it all in her name, the security note on the account. She has been plotting to steal this vacation from you for weeks. Hearing Sarah say it out loud solidified what I already suspected. It wasn't an impulse. It was a conspiracy. "The emails confirm it," I said. She was so careful with her wording. Always, "Thank you for contributing." Never, "Thank you for paying for everything." She was creating a paper trail to support her story, Sarah said, her voice sharp with anger on my behalf. She wanted to be able to claim she was the host and you were just a minor guest who chipped in a little. If you complained, she could paint you as ungrateful. It's classic gaslighting. We talked for another half hour, Sarah's outrage a comforting balm on my own wounded feelings. She helped me see past the hurt to the cold, hard mechanics of what Jenna had done. It was a heist, plain and simple. "So, what's your next move?" Sarah asked. "I don't know yet," I admitted. "The hotel manager, Mr. Evans, is looking into it. He seems to be on my side, but his hands are tied by their policies." "You have the bank records, Clara," she insisted. "That's your ace in the hole. This isn't just a family dispute anymore. This is fraud. She took a huge amount of money from you under false pretenses. That's a crime." "I know," I said, a new sense of purpose hardening my voice. "I'm not going to let her get away with it. I just need to figure out the right way to play this. Causing a scene is what she wants. I need to be smarter than her." "Good," Sarah said firmly. "Don't let her win. Your grandmother gave you that money to bring you joy, not to fund your sociopathic cousin's fantasy life. You fight for it, Clara. And call me anytime, day or night." After we hung up, I felt stronger. Sarah was right. This was a fight, and I needed to treat it as such. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the glittering lights of the resort complex. Somewhere up there, in the most expensive suite in the hotel, Jenna and Mark were probably drinking champagne, congratulating themselves on their cleverness. They thought I was defeated, tucked away in a standard room licking my wounds. They had no idea that I was gathering my strength, preparing for battle. I thought about what Mr. Evans had said. He was reviewing the booking. He was looking for something. Perhaps a breach of the hotel's code of conduct. That was my opening. I needed to give him a reason, a solid, policy-based reason to intervene. My financial proof was a civil matter, as he'd said. But what if Jenna's actions constituted something more? What if I could prove she was not just a cruel cousin, but a problematic guest for the hotel itself? My mind started working, connecting the dots. Jenna's arrogance, her need for control, her desire to be seen as wealthy and important. People like that often get sloppy. They make demands, they treat staff poorly. I wondered what extensive notes Mr. Evans had seen on the booking. Jenna, in her effort to play the role of the VIP, might have inadvertently created a record of her own difficult nature. I decided to get some sleep. Tomorrow was a new day. I would meet with Mr. Evans in the morning. I would be calm, rational, and armed with every piece of evidence I had. Jenna wanted to erase me from this vacation. I was going to make sure that by the time I was done, she would be the one who wished she had never come. The small, clean room no longer felt like a consolation prize. It felt like a war room. The next morning, I woke up early. I had slept surprisingly well, the exhaustion from the previous day's emotional turmoil giving way to a night of deep, dreamless rest. As I got ready, I felt a clarity I hadn't felt in a long time. The hurt was still there, a dull ache in my chest, but it was overshadowed by a steely determination. I was no longer just reacting. I was planning. I checked my phone. There were no messages from Jenna or Mark. Of course not. In their minds, I was dealt with. I was a problem that had been solved. The thought of their smug satisfaction fueled my resolve. I put on a simple dress, something that looked neat and respectable. I wanted to project an image of calm competence when I met with Mr. Evans. I went down to the hotel's cafe and ordered a coffee. As I sat there, I organized my thoughts and the evidence I had on my phone, the bank transfer, the emails. I created a separate folder, making sure everything was easy to access. While I was doing this, my phone buzzed. It was a notification from a social media app. For a moment, my heart leaped, thinking Jenna had already posted something. But it was just a memory from a year ago. I had a feeling, a gut instinct, that Jenna's plan wasn't just about stealing a vacation. It was about public perception. She didn't just want the luxury experience. She wanted the credit for it. She wanted everyone back home to see her as the generous, successful family matriarch. People like Jenna live for an audience. Her victory wouldn't be complete until it was public. I started searching her social media profiles, but they were quiet. Too quiet. Just as I was finishing my coffee, my phone rang. It was an internal call from the hotel. "Ms. Miller, this is David Evans. I was hoping you might have a moment to speak with me this morning." "Of course," I said. "I'm in the cafe in the main lobby." "Excellent, I will be right down," he replied. A few minutes later, Mr. Evans appeared. He was carrying a slim folder. He greeted me with a polite nod and sat down opposite me. "Good morning," he said. "I hope you slept well." "I did, thank you. The room was very comfortable," I replied. He got straight to the point. "I have spent some time reviewing the file for Suite 1201. As you suspected, your cousin has been quite active." He opened the folder, though he kept the contents angled away from me. "Since checking in yesterday, she has called the front desk 6 times. She complained about the temperature of the champagne that was sent up as a welcome amenity. She demanded a specific brand of bottled water that we do not stock. She also filed a formal complaint that the thread count of the sheets was not up to her standards, though I can assure you they are the finest we offer." I wasn't surprised. This was classic Jenna, acting like a world-weary billionaire to impress the staff. "Her behavior is consistent with that of a very demanding guest," Mr. Evans continued. "But so far, it doesn't cross the line into a breach of our code of conduct. It's obnoxious, but it's not grounds for removal." My hopes fell slightly. "I see," I said. "However," he said, leaning forward slightly, "there is more. She has also made several special requests with our concierge. She's booked a private yacht excursion for tomorrow and a couple's massage at the spa, charging it all to the room." "Of course she has," I murmured, spending my money as fast as she could. Mr. Evans looked at me directly. "The charges are already substantial, Ms. Miller. They are all being billed to the card on file, the one associated with the reservation she made." He paused. "I'm not sure of the details of your arrangement, but I feel it's my duty to inform you that the incidental spending is significant." He was giving me a warning. He was telling me that Jenna's financial rampage was continuing, and if I didn't act, I would be on the hook for it all. The reservation was in her name, but my money was the ultimate source. Untangling that would be a legal nightmare. Then, he did something unexpected. He slid a single folded piece of paper across the table towards me. It was a standard piece of hotel stationery. "This was left at the concierge desk yesterday evening," he said, his voice low. It was addressed to Ms. Smith, but it appears to be a draft of some kind that she wanted them to review. My concierge manager was concerned and passed it to me. He thought it was unusual. I believe it may be of interest to you. My heart started to beat faster. I unfolded the paper. It was a printout. At the top was a picture of Jenna and Mark, taken just yesterday on the balcony of the suite. They were clinking champagne glasses, beaming at the camera, the stunning ocean view behind them. Below the picture was a block of text. It was a draft for a social media post. The caption read, "So incredibly grateful to be able to treat my amazing family to this much-needed getaway after a tough year. It's been hard on all of us, but making beautiful memories together is what truly matters. Feeling so blessed to have this time with my wonderful husband, Mark. Family first. Blessed, chach, luxury, travel. Making memories." I read the words twice, 3 times. My name was nowhere. There was no mention of me, no hint that anyone else was even supposed to be there. It wasn't just an omission. It was a deliberate public erasure. She had crafted a narrative that painted her as the sole, benevolent provider of this extravagant trip. The post was a masterpiece of deception, designed to garner sympathy and admiration. She was using our grandmother's death as a prop in her play for social status. The anger that had been simmering inside me finally boiled over into a cold, white-hot rage. This was no longer about a room or about money. This was about my family's legacy. This was about my grandmother's memory, which Jenna was shamelessly exploiting for likes and comments. I looked up at Mr. Evans. My expression must have told him everything he needed to know. "This is scheduled to be posted tomorrow morning," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "She's not just locking me out. She's trying to publicly humiliate me and steal my family's story." Mr. Evans nodded slowly, his eyes filled with a grim understanding. "I suspected as much," he said. "This goes far beyond a simple payment dispute. This is a calculated act of malice happening under my roof." "What can we do?" I asked, my mind racing. "You said your hands were tied." "My hands are tied when it comes to eviction over a civil matter," he corrected me. "But the hotel has a zero-tolerance policy for fraudulent representation. A guest claiming to be the financial sponsor of a booking when they are not, especially when they are leveraging that claim to run up significant charges, is a serious issue. This printout," he tapped the paper, "is evidence of intent to defraud not just you, but the hotel's reputation by association. It establishes a pattern of deceptive behavior." A plan began to form in my mind, a way to use Jenna's own arrogance against her. "She's running up charges," I said, thinking out loud. "On a card that is ultimately linked back to my money. What happens if there's a problem with that card?" A flicker of a smile touched Mr. Evans's lips. "If the pre-authorized amount for incidentals is declined, or if the primary payment method is flagged for a security review, hotel policy dictates that the guest must present a new form of payment immediately to cover the existing balance and future charges. If they are unable to do so, their room keys are deactivated, and they are asked to settle their account and vacate the property." The trap was perfect. It was elegant. It used the hotel's own rules, the very system Jenna thought was protecting her, to corner her. "When does the system typically check the pre-authorization?" I asked. "It can be checked at any time, especially if the incidental charges become unusually high in a short period," he said, his meaning perfectly clear. He had the power to trigger that check whenever he wanted. I took a deep breath. "Mr. Evans, I need to make another phone call. Can we meet again in 1 hour?" "Of course," he said, standing up. He left the printout on the table for me. "I will be in my office, just behind the front desk. Let me know what you decide." As he walked away, I looked down at the picture of Jenna and Mark. They looked so happy, so pleased with themselves. They thought they were on top of the world. They had no idea how far they were about to fall. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found the number from my Aunt Carol. She was my grandmother's sister, a sensible, no-nonsense woman who valued honesty above all else. She was the family's unofficial historian and moral compass. If Jenna was spreading a false narrative, Aunt Carol needed to hear the truth from me first. I needed to know how deep the deception went. I pressed the call button, my heart pounding. This conversation would set the next stage of my plan in motion. I needed to know who my true allies were. Aunt Carol answered with her usual brisk warmth. "Clara, dear, what a lovely surprise. How is the vacation going? Jenna sent me a picture this morning. It looks absolutely divine." My blood ran cold. "She already sent you a picture?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. "Oh yes, just a quick snapshot from their balcony. She and Mark. She said you were probably still sleeping." Aunt Carol said cheerfully. She told me she and Mark had been saving up for ages to give the family a special treat. It's just so wonderfully generous of them, especially after everything we've all been through. The lie was already in motion. Jenna wasn't even waiting for her big social media reveal. She was preceding the story with key family members. My hand tightened around my phone. "Aunt Carol," I said, my voice dropping slightly. "I need to talk to you about that. About the trip. There's something you need to know." I took a deep breath and laid out the truth. I told her about the inheritance from Grandma. I told her about my offer to pay for the entire trip to bring the family together. I told her how I transferred the money to Jenna under the agreement that she would simply handle the logistics. I didn't mention being locked out yet. I started with the foundation of the lie. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. I could hear the gentle ticking of a clock in her house. "Clara?" she finally said, and her voice was completely different. The cheerfulness was gone, replaced by a steely gravity. "Are you telling me that you paid for this trip? All of it?" "Yes," I confirmed. It was supposed to be from me in Grandma's memory. "And Jenna is telling people that she and Mark paid for it?" "Yes," I said. "She told you that herself just this morning." I heard her take a sharp breath. "That child," she whispered, a world of disappointment in those two words. "That is not just a lie, Clara. That is a theft. She is stealing your generosity. She is stealing your grandmother's legacy." I had my answer. Aunt Carol was not an enabler. She was an ally. "It gets worse, Aunt Carol," I said, and then I told her the rest. About being locked out, about the front desk, about Jenna's cruel words on the phone, about the complimentary room the manager had given me. Her anger was palpable, even through the phone. "She locked you out? She left you stranded in the lobby? After you paid for her entire luxurious vacation?" "Yes," I said simply. "David Evans," she said suddenly. "Is the manager's name David Evans?" I was taken aback. "Yes, it is. How did you know?" "Your uncle and I have stayed at that resort 3 times," she said, her voice grim. "We know David. He is a good man, an honorable man. If he is helping you, you are in good hands. He does not suffer fools or tolerate dishonesty." This was an unexpected gift, a personal connection. It solidified my trust in Mr. Evans completely. "He's been very kind," I said, "but he's limited by hotel policy." "Policies are for honest people, Clara," Aunt Carol said sharply. "Jenna is not being honest. Therefore, the standard rules do not apply in the same way. What is your plan?" I quickly outlined the idea that was forming in my mind, the one Mr. Evans and I had danced around. Triggering a payment check, forcing Jenna to face the bill she was so proudly racking up. "Good," Aunt Carol said without hesitation. "That is a sound plan. It uses her own arrogance as the weapon. She will be forced to expose herself. You will not have to say a word." She paused. "Clara, I want you to do something for me. Do you have a photo of the handwritten letter your grandmother left you with the inheritance?" I did. I had photographed all of Grandma's important papers for safekeeping. The letter was beautiful, written in her elegant script. It spoke of her love for me and her wish that I use the money for my own joy and not for the expectations of others. Yes, I have it on my phone, I said. When the time comes, Aunt Carol said, her voice firm, I want you to show that to David Evans. This is not just about money. This is about honoring your grandmother's final wishes. That letter is proof of her intent. Jenna is not just disrespecting you. She is desecrating her grandmother's memory. David will understand the gravity of that. Her words strengthened my resolve even more. This was the key. The personal connection, the emotional weight. This wasn't just about financial fraud anymore. It was about something far more sacred. Thank you, Aunt Carol, I said, my voice filled with gratitude. I will. You stand your ground, dear, she said. Your grandmother would be proud of you. Call me the moment it's over. We hung up and I felt like I had an army at my back. I had Sarah's righteous fury, Mr. Evans's strategic assistance, and now Aunt Carol's moral authority and personal connection. I looked at the social media draft again. Jenna's smiling, triumphant face. She thought she was untouchable. I stood up and walked purposefully towards the front desk. It was time to go see Mr. Evans. It was time to spring the trap. I found Mr. Evans in his office, a small, tidy space just behind the reception area. The door was open, and he beckoned me in. Ms. Miller, he said, gesturing to the chair opposite his desk. Please. I sat down, feeling a surge of confidence. I've made a decision, I said, my voice clear and firm. I want to proceed. He nodded, his expression serious. I thought you might. Before we discuss the next steps, is there anything else I should be aware of? His question was an invitation. He was giving me one last chance to lay all my cards on the table. I thought of Aunt Carol's advice. This was the moment. Yes, actually, there is, I said. I took out my phone and navigated to the photo album where I kept pictures of important documents. I found the image of my grandmother's letter and handed the phone to him. This money wasn't just from a savings account, I explained as he took the phone. It was a specific inheritance from my grandmother, who passed away a few months ago. This is the letter she left me with it. Mr. Yawar Evans held the phone carefully. He didn't just glance at it. He read every word. I watched his face as he absorbed my grandmother's elegant handwriting, her loving words, and her explicit wish for my happiness. His professional demeanor softened, and a look of profound empathy crossed his features. He read the final line aloud, his voice quiet. Use this for something that brings you joy, my dear Clara, and do not let anyone make you feel guilty for it. He handed the phone back to me, his eyes meeting mine. Thank you for showing me this, he said, his voice imbued with a new level of gravity. This is no longer a hotel issue. This is a matter of profound disrespect. Your cousin's actions are not just fraudulent, they are morally reprehensible. He stood up and walked to his office window, which overlooked the resort's lush gardens. My mother passed away 2 years ago, he said, his back to me. She was a woman of great integrity. She believed that a person's character was defined by how they behaved when they thought no one was watching. Your cousin believes no one is watching. He turned back to face me, his jaw set. We will proceed. The incidental charges on Suite 1201 have now exceeded a threshold that triggers an automatic security review of the payment method on file. I will be making a call to the suite shortly. What will you say? I asked. I will inform Ms. Smith that there has been a discrepancy with the payment authorization for the room, he explained. I will tell her that the pre-authorized amount for incidentals has been declined and that the original payment for the booking has been flagged by our system. This is, for all intents and purposes, true. I am flagging it. He continued, laying out the plan. I will request her immediate presence at the front desk to resolve the matter. I will inform her that if she cannot rectify the payment situation, her keycards will be deactivated and she and her husband will be required to vacate the premises. It was perfect. It was clinical, professional, and left Jenna no room to maneuver. "Where do you want me to be?" I asked. "I have a small private seating area just off the main lobby. It's discreet but has a clear view of the front desk," he said. "I would like you to be waiting there. When she comes down, I will invite her to join me at the table where you are seated. It is better that this conversation does not happen at the main counter." He was managing the situation to minimize a public scene, but also to maximize the impact of the confrontation. It was brilliant. "What do I do?" I asked. "For now, nothing," he said. "You let me handle the hotel's side of things. You are the injured party here. You are here to witness the resolution. When the time is right, you will know what to say." I nodded, my heart pounding with a mixture of nerves and anticipation. "When will you make the call?" Mr. Evans glanced at his watch. "It is now 11 a.m. Her social media post is designed to go live tomorrow morning. Let's allow her to enjoy her last few hours of blissful ignorance. She has a spa appointment at 2 p.m. I will make the call at 1:45 p.m., just before she plans to leave. It will catch her off guard and add a sense of urgency." The timing was impeccable. It was cruel in its own surgical way, and I loved it. It would disrupt her perfectly planned afternoon of indulgence. "Thank you, Mr. Evans," I said, standing up, "for everything." "Justice is its own reward, Ms. Miller," he replied with a small, grim smile. "Please go and get some lunch. Be in the seating area by 1:45 p.m. I will handle the rest." I left his office feeling as if I were floating. The weight that had been pressing down on me for the last day was finally beginning to lift. I was no longer a victim cowering in a borrowed room. I was an active participant in a plan to reclaim my dignity. Jenna had wanted to play a game of power and deception. She just didn't realize that I had found a much better player to have on my team. The next few hours would pass slowly, but I knew the final act of this drama would be worth the wait. The hours leading up to the confrontation were the longest of my life. I tried to read a book by the pool, but I couldn't focus on the words. I ordered lunch, but I barely tasted the food. My mind was entirely consumed with what was about to happen. I kept replaying different scenarios, imagining the look on Jenna's face when she received the call from Mr. Evans. I pictured her annoyance turning to confusion and then to panic. At 1:40 p.m., I made my way to the designated seating area in the lobby. It was a semi-private alcove with 2 comfortable armchairs and a small coffee table, set beside a large potted palm that offered a degree of privacy while still allowing a clear sightline to the front desk and the elevators. I sat down, my hands clasped in my lap, and took a few deep, calming breaths. I felt strangely serene. The anger and hurt were still there, but they had been transformed into a focused, potent energy. At precisely 1:45 p.m., I saw Mr. Evans at the front desk pick up a phone. He spoke into it for a moment, his expression unreadable from this distance. He was making the call. I imagined the phone ringing in the opulent suite upstairs, interrupting Jenna and Mark as they prepared for their spa treatment. I imagined Jenna's sigh of irritation as she answered, expecting it to be a confirmation from the concierge or some other minor service call. I didn't have to wait long. Less than 5 minutes later, the elevator doors chimed and opened. Jenna and Mark stepped out. They were both dressed in fluffy white hotel robes, clearly on their way to the spa. Jenna was striding ahead, her face a mask of annoyance. Mark trailed behind her, looking confused and slightly concerned. "This is ridiculous," I heard Jenna say in a loud whisper as they approached the front desk. "Declined? That's impossible. I'll have his job for this." She marched up to the clerk, who immediately deferred to Mr. Evans as he stepped forward to intercept them. "Mrs. Smith, thank you for coming down," Mr. Evans said, his voice a model of professional calm. "I am David Evans, the hotel manager." "I know who you are," Jenna snapped. "What is the meaning of this? I was told my card was declined. That's a mistake." "A very embarrassing mistake for your hotel." "Perhaps we could discuss this somewhere more private?" Mr. Evans suggested, gesturing smoothly towards the alcove where I was sitting. "Please join me." Jenna's eyes followed his gesture, and for the first time, she saw me. Her face froze. The arrogant anger on her features was instantly replaced by a flash of pure shock, which she quickly tried to cover with a sneer. "What is she doing here?" she demanded, her voice dripping with contempt. "I thought we had an understanding." "Ms. Miller is here at my request," Mr. Evans said evenly. "As the matter concerns her as well. Please, have a seat." Mark looked from me to Jenna and then to Mr. Evans, his confusion deepening. "Jenna, what's going on?" he asked. Jenna ignored him. She stared at me, her eyes narrowed. She was trying to figure out the angle, trying to understand how I had suddenly become part of an official hotel meeting. Reluctantly, she walked over and sat in the armchair opposite me, perching on the edge as if ready to bolt. Mark hovered awkwardly beside her. The confrontation begins now. I can feel the shift in the air. The power dynamic has been completely inverted. My heart is pounding, but on the outside, I am perfectly still. Mr. Evans speaks, his tone formal and direct. "Thank you for joining me. As I mentioned on the phone, we have a payment issue with your reservation. The card on file has been flagged by our internal security system." Jenna scoffs. It's a brittle, unconvincing sound. "That is impossible. There is nothing wrong with that card. There are more than enough funds." "The issue is not the credit limit, Ms. Smith," Mr. Evans says. His voice is cold steel. "The issue is the source of the funds. The hotel has received a report, a credible report, that the money used to secure this booking was acquired under false pretenses." The color drains from Jenna's face. This is not what she expected. She thought this was a technical glitch, something she could bully her way through. The word fraud hangs unspoken in the air. What report?" she stammers. "Who would make such a ridiculous accusation?" I feel the eyes of all three of them fall on me. This is my moment. I lean forward slightly, my hands still resting calmly in my lap. My voice, when I speak, is quiet but carries through the space with absolute clarity. "I did," I say. Jenna lets out a sharp, incredulous laugh. "You? Oh, this is rich. You're just bitter because Mark and I wanted some privacy. You're trying to ruin our vacation because you're jealous." "No, Jenna," I say, and my voice is as steady as a rock. "I'm not bitter. I'm just done being your personal bank." I slide my phone across the coffee table towards her, the screen illuminated with the bank transfer confirmation. "This is my money, Jenna. $9,450. Transferred from my account to yours. It's the money Grandma left me." Mark, who has been silent this whole time, leans over and looks at the phone. I see his eyes widen. He looks at Jenna, a dawning horror on his face. "Jenna? What is she talking about? You told me your bonus from work paid for this." Jenna flinches as if struck. She pushes the phone away. "She's lying. She contributed a little bit, but I paid for most of it. She's twisting things." Mr. Evans slides a piece of paper across the table. It is an official hotel invoice. "This, Ms. Smith, is the current outstanding balance for your suite, including the incidental charges you have accrued so far. It totals $10,780. He lets that number hang in the air for a second. "Since the original payment method is now under a fraud investigation, the hotel requires payment in full for this amount immediately. You can, of course, use a different credit card. If you cannot settle this balance now, I'm afraid I will have to ask you to vacate the premises." Jenna stares at the invoice as if it's a snake. The blood has completely left her face, leaving it a pasty, mottled white. She looks trapped. The spa robes that looked so luxurious minutes ago now just look absurd. We can't pay that right now," she sputters, looking at Mark for support. But Mark is just staring at her, his expression one of utter betrayal. "We don't have that kind of money just sitting around." The final piece of the trap is ready to be sprung. I pick up the folded piece of paper Mr. Evans had given me earlier, the printout of her social media post. I smooth it out on the table. But you were treating the family? I ask, my voice laced with a saccharine sweetness that mimics her own. You were so blessed to be able to do this for us? I tap the picture of her and Mark, their smiling, fraudulent faces beaming up at them. You were making beautiful memories? Jenna looks at the printout, and a small, strangled gasp escapes her lips. She sees the caption, the hashtags, the entire premeditated lie laid bare on the table in front of her husband and the hotel manager. She has been caught, completely and utterly caught. There is no way to spin this. There is no one else to blame. Mark reads the caption, then looks at the invoice, then at Jenna. The dots connect in his mind with an audible click. Oh my God, Jenna, he whispers, shaking his head in disbelief. You lied. You lied about all of it. Jenna's face, which had been a mask of panic, finally crumples. The fight goes out of her. She looks small and pathetic, huddled in her oversized robe. I was going to pay you back, she says to me, her voice a desperate, cracking whisper. It's a lie, and we all know it. No, you weren't, I say, my voice flat and devoid of emotion. You were going to post this picture and become the family hero, and I was going to be the ungrateful cousin you had to banish from your glorious, generous vacation. You were going to get away with it. Mr. Evans clears his throat, bringing the proceedings back to their official course. Ms. Smith, the hotel's position is clear. You have two options. You can settle the bill in full right now, or you can pack your belongings and vacate the hotel immediately. If you choose to vacate, please be aware that the hotel will be filing a formal report regarding the payment dispute. We will also be cooperating fully with any investigation Ms. Miller chooses to pursue. He is offering her a choice, but it's no choice at all. He is offering her public humiliation versus public humiliation with potential legal consequences. Jenna just sits there, trembling, unable to speak. Mark finally steps forward, his face grim. We'll vacate, he says quietly, not looking at Jenna. He looks at me. Clara, I am so sorry. I had no idea. I swear, I had no idea. I just look at him. His ignorance was a choice. He enjoyed the luxury without asking too many questions. He was complicit in his willful blindness. I offer him no comfort. I say nothing. Mr. Evans nods crisply. Very well. I will have a member of my security team escort you to your room. You will have 30 minutes to pack your belongings. They will then escort you off the property. He then turns to me, his voice changing, becoming warmer. Ms. Miller, he says, loud enough for Jenna and Mark to hear clearly. Since you are the legitimate source of the funds for this suite, the reservation is, of course, yours if you wish to assume it. We have already prepared your new key cards. He places 2 fresh, clean key cards on the table in front of me. They are for Suite 1201, my suite. Jenna looks from the keys to my face, her expression a toxic mixture of hatred, shame, and utter defeat. You can't do this, she hisses, her voice venomous. I pick up the keys, their smooth plastic cool against my skin. I stand up looking down at her for the first time. I'm not doing anything, Jenna, I say, my voice calm and final. I'm just accepting the room I paid for. You said you and Mark deserved this trip, not me. I pause, letting the words hang in the air. I guess the hotel disagrees. I turn and walk away, leaving them there in the alcove with the ruins of their deception. I don't look back. I can feel their eyes on me, but I don't care. I walk towards the elevators, my head held high, the key cards held tightly in my hand. The journey to the 12th floor is silent and swift. I step out into the quiet, carpeted hallway and walk to the door of Suite 1201. I slide the key card into the lock. The light turns green. I hear the satisfying, solid click of the lock disengaging. I push the door open and step inside. The massive suite is silent and empty. The sun is streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the vast living area. On the coffee table sits a half-empty bottle of champagne and 2 used glasses, the evidence of their brief, stolen victory. I walk past it, through the living room and out onto the expansive balcony. The ocean stretches out before me, vast and blue and beautiful. I take a deep breath of the fresh, salty air. It feels like the first real breath I've taken in days. The silence in the huge suite is the most satisfying sound in the world. A short while later, there was a soft knock on the suite door. I opened it to find a member of the hotel staff, a young man in a crisp uniform holding a large silver tray. "Compliments of Mr. Evans," he said with a warm smile. He brought it in and set it on the large dining table. On the tray was a brand new, chilled bottle of the finest champagne the hotel offered, 2 clean flutes, and an elaborate arrangement of fresh tropical fruit and artisanal cheeses. Propped against the champagne bucket was a small, cream-colored envelope with my name on it. After the staff member left, I picked up the note. It was handwritten on Mr. Evans's personal stationery. The note was short and simple. "Enjoy the vacation you deserve, Ms. Miller. The one your grandmother wanted for you. David Evans, Hotel Management." A wave of profound gratitude washed over me. This man, a stranger just a day ago, had chosen to do the right thing, not the easy thing. He had wielded his authority with integrity and precision, and in doing so had given me back more than just a hotel room. He had given me back my dignity. I decided to call Aunt Carol. She answered immediately, as if she had been waiting by the phone. "It's over," I said, my voice quiet. "Tell me everything," she commanded. I recounted the entire scene in the lobby. I told her about Jenna and Mark in their bathrobes, about the invoice, the social media printout, and Mark's horrified realization. I described the moment Mr. Evans presented me with the new keycards and Jenna's final, impotent hiss of defiance. Aunt Carol listened without interruption. When I was finished, she let out a long, slow sigh. "Good," she said, her voice filled with a grim satisfaction. "That is exactly as it should have been. Publicly, but without you having to be the one to scream and shout. You maintained your grace. Your grandmother would have been so proud of that." "They were escorted out by security," I added. "As they should have been," she said firmly, "and I will make sure the rest of the family understands exactly what happened here. I will not allow Jenna to spin some sob story about how you cruelly kicked her out. I will tell them the truth. I will tell them she tried to steal your inheritance and your grandmother's memory, and she failed." "Thank you, Aunt Carol," I said, feeling the final burden lift from my shoulders. I wouldn't have to fight this battle on the home front. Aunt Carol would be my general. "You have nothing to thank me for, dear," she said. "Family stands for honesty. When that is broken, there are consequences. You enjoy that beautiful view. You have earned it." Later that evening, as I was sitting on the balcony watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink, my phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. It was Mark. "Clara, I know you have no reason to listen to me, but I need to say this. I am at the airport. Jenna is not taking this well. I am so sorry. I truly had no idea about the money. I believed her. I see now how stupid that was. I should have known it was too good to be true. I am ashamed of myself and of her. I hope one day you can forgive me." I read the message once, then a second time. A part of me felt a flicker of pity for him. He was a fool, duped by his wife's ambition and greed. But another, stronger part of me felt nothing but cold indifference. He had enjoyed the fruits of the deception without question. He had stood by her side while I was locked out. His apology was for himself, to ease his own conscience. It was not for me. I deleted the message without replying. His problems were not my concern anymore. The rest of my week at the resort was peaceful and restorative. I spent my days reading by the pool, swimming in the ocean, and enjoying the incredible food. I took the private yacht excursion that Jenna had booked, and it was magnificent. As I sailed on the crystal clear water, I raised a glass to my grandmother. This was the joy she had wished for me. The suite, which would have felt crowded with 3 people, was a palace for one. I used all the rooms. I slept in the master bedroom with the best view. I used another bedroom as a dressing room. I ate breakfast on the balcony every morning. I was not just occupying the space, I was claiming it. I was filling it with my own peace, my own presence, erasing the tainted energy Jenna and Mark had left behind. On my last day, I decided to make one single social media post. I had avoided it all week, not wanting to engage in the kind of public display that Jenna craved. But I realized it was necessary, not for revenge, but for closure. To set the record straight in my own quiet way. I took a simple, beautiful photo of the ocean view from my balcony at sunrise. I didn't include myself in the picture. The view was the star. I posted it with a simple, heartfelt caption. For Grandma, with love and joy. I didn't tag anyone. I didn't add any flashy hashtags. The people who needed to understand would understand. The post was a quiet testament to the truth. It was a tribute to my grandmother's love and a final, definitive statement that her legacy had been honored, not stolen. Within an hour, the comments started to appear. Aunt Carol was first. A beautiful tribute, Clara. She would love it. Other family members, cousins, and aunts who had clearly been briefed by Aunt Carol added their own hearts and loving comments. There was a conspicuous silence from Jenna's side of the family and from her own profile, which had suddenly gone completely private. The news had spread. The truth was out. As I packed my bags to leave, I felt a sense of profound peace. This trip had started as a nightmare of betrayal and humiliation, but it had ended up being one of the most empowering experiences of my life. I had found my voice. I had learned to fight for myself. I had discovered that true strength wasn't about avoiding conflict to keep a false peace, but about standing firmly in your own truth, even when it's difficult. Before I checked out, I wrote a thank you note to Mr. Evans and the hotel staff, leaving it with a generous tip for the housekeeping team who had taken such good care of the suite. As I stood at the front desk, settling the few remaining charges on my own card, Mr. Evans came out to see me off. "I trust everything was to your satisfaction, Ms. Miller?" he asked, a knowing twinkle in his eye. "It was more than satisfactory," I said with a genuine smile. "It was perfect. Thank you again for everything." "It was my pleasure," he said, shaking my hand warmly. "Safe travels." As I rode to the airport in the town car, I looked out the window at the receding palm trees and the sparkling ocean. I felt no sadness about leaving. I was taking the best part of the vacation with me, a renewed sense of self-worth and a clear understanding of my own strength. Jenna had wanted to make me feel small. She had wanted to steal my joy and my grandmother's legacy for her own selfish purposes. But in the end, her plan had backfired spectacularly. She had lost her reputation, her husband's trust, and the respect of her family. She had been publicly exposed and humiliated. And I had the vacation of a lifetime and the priceless knowledge that I could face down any bully, even one who shared my blood. I thought about Jenna and Mark, stranded and disgraced. I wondered if their marriage would survive a betrayal of that magnitude. I wondered what lies Jenna would try to spin to salvage her shattered image. But then I stopped myself. It didn't matter. Their fate was their own to deal with. I had spent enough of my life worrying about my cousin's feelings and trying to manage her jealousy. That was over now. I leaned back in my seat and closed my eyes. I had stopped giving warnings. I had stopped trying to buy peace. Jenna had wanted to teach me a lesson about my place in the world. Instead, she had been the one to receive an education. They finally learned what it feels like to be small. And me? I had never felt bigger. The quiet resolve that had formed in that hotel lobby had solidified into a permanent part of my character. I was no longer the person who would stand by and let things happen. I was the person who would make things happen. The trip was over, but the transformation was just beginning. And for that, in a strange, twisted way, I had Jenna to thank. She had meant to break me, but instead she had made me unbreakable.